Alright, hey guys, I'm back for chapter 2. I don't know if I'm going to complete this because this one's really, really long. But hey, if so, I'll cut it in 2 parts. Anyway, let's go. Chapter 2. The sword swinging into these strange sounds swished around, cutting nothing but air. Right afterwards, the blue boar, which moved surprisingly quick considering its bulk, charged fiercely at its assailant. I burst into laughter after watching him fly through the air, roll on the hill after getting hit by the boar's flat nose. Ha, not like that. The first move is important, Clan. Arr, that bastard. The complaining, assaulting a party member called Clem got up and glanced at me while answering plaintively. But Kirito, even if you say that, I can't do anything about the fact that it is moving. I met this person who had reddish hair held up by a bandana, simple leather armor worn over his body a few hours ago. If he revealed his real name, it would have been hard to omit the horrifics, but his name Clem, my name Kirito, were both names we had made up for our characters. Putting San or Kun at the end of it sound comically more than anything. The legs of the person began to start shaking. Seems like he's a little dizzy. I picked up a pebble from the undergrowth at my feet, raised it above my shoulder. As soon as the system detected the first motion of a sword skill, the pebble started giving off a slight green light. After that, my hand almost moved by itself, and pebble went flying, drawing a straight line and hitting the board between his eyebrows. Geek, whatever. The board squealed fury towards me. Of course they move. They're not training dummies, but if you start right motion, the system will put your sword skill into motion and hit the target for you. Motion. While muttering this like some spell, Clem raised his cutlass that he held in his right hand. Although the blue boar, officially named Frenzy Boar, was a level 1 monster, Clem had lost almost half of his HP from being hit by counterattacks due to his wild swings. Well, even if he died, he just responded to the starting city near. But coming all the way out to this hunting ground again was somewhat annoying. It seemed like there was one move left before they reached its conclusion. I cocked my head as I blocked the board's charge with the sword in my right hand. How should I explain this? It's not like 1, 2, 3 and strike, but it's more like gathering a bit of energy. Then as soon as you feel the skill start, it goes BAM! And you hit the monster. Bam, eh? Clem's roughly handsome face grimaced itself to an unsightly image as he leveled his sword at his waist. Inhale and exhale. After taking a deep breath, he lowered his stance, raised his sword as he was going to shoulder it. This time the system sensed the pose correctly, and the arching sword slowly started shining orange. Ha! With his low yell, he jumped out the ground with a movement that was completely different from the ones before. Swoosh! With the crisp sound, the sword drew its flame-red trajectory through the air. The Reaver, a basic skill of one-handed curved sword, struck the bull right in its neck as it was about to charge and got rid of the rest of his HP, which, like Clan's, was about half full. It gave a painful cry and its large body shattered like glass, and purple numbers appeared, showing how many virtual experience I gained. Yeah! Clint struck an overblown pose of victory with a huge smile on his face, and raised his left hand. I high-fived him and smiled again. Congrats on your first victory, but that board is about as hard as slimes from other games. Hey, really? I thought it was some sort of semi-boss or something. Not a chance. My smile became a little forced, and I sheathed my sword on my back. Even though I was teasing him, I understood what he was feeling right now. Since I had 2 months more experience than him, it was only now that he could feel exhilarating feeling of destroying his enemy with his own hands. Clan started to use the same sword skill over and over, yelling as he did so. Perhaps as a way of practicing, I left him alone and looked around. The endlessly stretching plains gave off a beautiful red as the sun had started setting. Way up north there was a silhouette of a forest, a sparkling lake down south that I could just about make out the walls that surrounded the city to the east. To the west there was a limitless sky going on forever, bunches of golden clouds drifting by. We were at the plains that stretched to the west, starting city, which was situated at the north end of the first floor of the first colossal floating castle, Ankard. There should be numerous players fighting around here, but because of the enormous size of them, none of them were visible. Finally, seeming satisfied, Clint sheathed his sword and walked over while exerting the area. But really, however many times I look around this, I still can't believe that this is inside a game. Well, even if you say inside, it's not like our souls were sucked in or anything. Our brains just sing in the hearing instead of our eyes and ears. With the signals like that nerve you're sending, I said with a shrug. Clem pouted like a kid. You might be able to use it now for me. It's the first time doing a full dive. Isn't that awesome? Really? It's a relief I was born in this era. You are exaggerating. But I laughed and I totally agreed with him. Nerve Gear. The name of the hardware that drove virtual role multiplayer online role-playing gameplay. Sword Art Online. The basic structure of this machine is totally different from the older ones. Unlike the old style main machine, the interface hardware like a flat screen monitors or handheld controllers. Nerve Gear only had a single interface, a streamlined interface that covered your whole head and face. Inside there were numerous signal transceivers. By using the electronic signals sent by those transceivers, the gear accessed the user's brain itself. The user didn't use eyes or ears to see, hear. The signals went directly to their brain. In addition, the machine could access not only sight and sound, but also touch, taste, and smell as well. That is to say, all five senses. After slipping the nerve gear on, locking and strapping under your chin, and speaking the intonation command, Link Start, all those sounds fade away and swayed in darkness. As soon as you passed the rainbow colored in the middle, you were in the other world made entirely of data. So, half a year ago, the machine, which started selling in May 2022, successfully created a virtual reality. The electronics company created the nerve gear, the full actual linking of the virtual reality. Blah. Full dive. It was a total seclusion from reality, fitting in the world of Bull. The reason that this nerve gear not only sent fake signals to the five senses, it also blocked and rerouted the orders that the brain sent to the body. This can be called the most basic requirement for moving freely in a virtual reality. If the body received a brain signal when the user was in full dive, the moment the user decided they wanted to run, their actual body would run into a wall. Because of nerve gear could reroute the commands to the brain sent through his spinal cord, Clint and I can both move our avatars around freely and swings our sword around. We've completely leapt into the game. The effect of the experience captivated me and many gamers like me, to the point where we were sure that we would never go back to the old touch pens or motion sensors. Glenn was staring at the wind passing through the plains and the castle's walls at distance. So Sword Act Online is the first game for the nerve gear you ever played, I asked. Clint looked calmly handsome warrior from the Sengoku period. I turned his head and nodded. Yeah, if he wore a serious expression on his face, he had an impressive bearing about him, worthy of an actor from a historical play. Of course, the way from the different his actual body in the real world. It was an avatar made out of nothing, based on choosing from a list of options. Of course, I looked ridiculously handsome protagonist from some fantasy animation as well. Clem continued in his low, vigorous voice, which, of course, was different from his real voice as well. But to be exact, I sort of brought the hardware in a rush after I managed to get my hands on Sword Act Online. There were only 10,000 on the first batch, so I suppose I was really lucky. Well, if you think about it, you were 10 times luckier when you got picked for beta testing. They only picked 1,000. Ah, yeah, I suppose. Clint kept staring at me. I unconsciously scratched my head. I remember the excitement and enthusiasm that Sword Act Online created. Hold on. When it was announced through the media like it was yesterday. Nerve Gear had realized the future foundation of gaming with Full Dive. However, due to the innovation of the actual machine, only remarkable titles came forth for all important software. They were all puzzles, education-related, and environment-type games, causing discontent among gaming addicts like me. Nerve Gear could truly render a virtual reality, but you could walk 100 meters before you hit a wall, and in that world, it was a really huge letdown. It was almost unavoidable that the hardcore gamers like me who had been deeply absorbed into the experience of being within the game, started anticipating a certain game genre. While we were waiting for a network response game, the kind of let millions of players log in and race, fight with, and live as characters of their own, that is to say, a massive multiplayer online role-playing game. When the anticipation craving reached its limit, the first VRMMORPG was announced in its time, Sword Art Online. The first stage of the game, that's floating castle, consisted of 100 floors. The players had lived in a world of forest lakes, relying only on their sword and drive to discover the route to the upper floors, defeat countless monsters, and make their way endlessly to the top. Magic, considered an indispensable part of fantasy, Massive multiplayer online role-playing games had been boldly left out. An almost endless number of skills called sword skills were created. It was the first plan to let players actually feel the experience of fighting with their bodies through full dive as much as possible. Skills varied, including productive skills such as smithing, leatherworking, and sewing, and everyday skills such as fishing, cooking, and playing music. Allowing players not to only adventure the huge game, but also actually live in it if they so wanted. If their skills were higher enough, they could buy a house and live with shepherds. As the information was steadily revealed, the gamers' enthusiasm only grew. The beta test only recruited 1,000 players. It was only said that 100,000 players, that the number half Gear sold at the time, volunteered to be a tester. Luck was the only one that I got to through the narrow gap that was picked. Beta testers also received additional benefit of being able to pre-order this game. Anyway, this is where I'm ending it here for now. Chapter 2, continuing today. I'm telling you, it's long.